Hey guys, Sarah here again, but this time I'm back with my Game Boy console collection. So we're not looking at any games, but we are looking at consoles. Most of the consoles I have are loose, but I do have a couple of box ones. Just realised I forgot one. So I thought I'd go in chronological order, starting with the DMGs or the original Game Boy. I'm working all the way up to the Game Boy Micro, which I believe was the last released. So, in terms of these guys, I don't remember what I paid for most of them, but if I can remember little things about how I got them, I will say so. The first DMG that I ever got, I believe, was this red one here. You see I've got a Game Boy camera in the back there. It matches, it's a red one. All these consoles work currently, but most of them I don't have batteries in because I repair Game Boys as part of like a, it's mainly a hobby, it's a little bit of a side hustle, but I know all about how bad corrosion is, and leaving batteries in Game Boys is the #1 way to, well, ruin your Game Boy. So I don't have batteries in most of these, but they do work. So yeah, there's this guy. I don't remember how much he was or even where I got him from. Followed by that, I have this green one next, which also has a matching green camera, which is pretty cool. This one, I remember I got it off Facebook, and it came with its, these coloured DMGs are called Play It Loud. They were part of a series. There was this, and there was a black one, and there was a yellow one, and a few others. And they came in plastic sort of cases, I guess you could call them, see-through cases. It came with that, and I think I paid about $70 for it off Facebook Marketplace locally, which again, not very often that happens. So this one still even has its little extension port cover, which is pretty dang cool. Followed by that, I wanted to get an original Game Boy. So this is the original colours. This one, I'm really lucky, it's really nice and grey still rather than going yellow, because these ones get sun damaged pretty bad. But even the screen lens and everything is in pretty nice condition. It's obviously been loved and played, but not overly. So yeah, I did have a black one, which I bought off a guy, but there was too many issues with it, and the actual shell had been pretty badly scratched, lost all the lettering and things like that. So as much as I wanted to keep it original, I decided to do my first modded Game Boy. So as I previously said, I repair a lot. I decided to go ahead and try and mod some. This guy, I changed the shell, the buttons, silicon. So these guys are actual 2-part buttons. I got these from, probably it was Handheld Legend, which is in the US. They have a UK partner, which is Retro Modding. So it's amazing how bright these guys are. So it's showing up as a block because I don't have a game in there. But because this was my very first one, the screen's not perfectly centered, and I haven't gone back in to fix that, but I did an IPS screen with it as well. So I do really like it. I am proud of this as my first one. I just need to, I didn't use a bracket when installing this, because this was a few years ago, mind you. I didn't know that brackets were needed, and they didn't come with most kits. So yeah, that's what happened there. Apologies for that, it's really warm in this room, so I just wanted to tie my hair back. The next one I bought off a lady whose kids had grown up, and it was a yellow one. However, just like the blue modded one, the case was completely trashed and destroyed. I've never seen anything so bad. It had divot cuts like someone had taken a lino cutter to it, or a chisel or something. But otherwise it worked. It needed needed some cleaning on the inside, but that was a while ago, and I've just gotten around to start modding this one. So I haven't finished it yet because I ran into a problem when I installed the screen that all of a sudden the power stopped working. So I installed a new power board in it, and now the power works, but I haven't managed to get the screen working again. But the cool thing is this, I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but this shell changes with heat. So it's a little bit warm today, so it might not be super obvious, but as you're playing it, you will leave fingerprints, etc. behind. I can't see it happening, so it must sort of be warm, but it does go from sort of like a purple to a pink change, which is pretty cool. So it will get bright pink like this eventually, hence why I've got those in there. But so yeah, and I haven't done it yet, but I am going to install a USB-C lithium-ion battery in there once I get everything else sorted out. Next up released was the Game Boy Pocket. So the Game Boy Pocket is still a black and white Game Boy, but they significantly reduced the size of the Game Boy. So Game Boy Pocket was pretty popular, I believe. But I've got a few colours. I've got one of my first ones that I ever bought was this silver one, which unfortunately it doesn't have a port cover. I do have some spares, but I can't find a spare silver one, and it is in ordinary condition. It's got some pretty bad scratching up here. I can't remember where I got this one, but it does work. There's no issues with it, so when I can eventually pick up a new port cover, we'll be good to go. I also have what we call a DMG style Game Boy Pocket. So this one, you can see I've had to replace the polarizing screen on, so it had some screen burn. Try and aim it so it's not reflective. They're naturally grey if you look at the screen, so they're naturally sort of a grey rather than a green like this. But I follow Elliot, his name is, he runs the YouTube channel The Retro Future, and he hasn't been able to find any that will fix this colour either. And he works with lots of different brands and things like that for collabs, so I think if he can't find one, we're going to have a bit of trouble. But at least we can still replace them, and it takes away the screen burn and makes the console usable again, which is pretty cool. This one's in really nice condition, serial number and everything. Doesn't have any wear or any bubbling. Of course, it's got the back, so yeah, I really like this one. It's one of the better conditioned ones I have. I do also have a red one that again has its back and everything. It's in pretty good condition, not as nice as the grey one. It does have some bubbling on its back sticker here. It does, however, have its original polarizer, which is cool. I also have a clear one. So this one I actually bought off eBay. I won an auction for it. I think I paid maybe $50, and it was in awful condition. It had sand on the inside, it had bad screen burn, it was just trash, and it was really gross, to be honest. And so I pulled it apart and I took all the sand out. I've got pictures somewhere, I think, of it. But I replaced the polarizing screen, gave it a really nice good clean. I think I had to replace some of the contacts as well. I think there might have been a little bit of corrosion. But it's fully working now. I would like to get a new label, but I think because it's got some damage, but sometimes that tells a story of where it's been, helps me remember what this was like when I bought it and where it came from. So yeah. And then the last Game Boy Pocket I have is a pink Japanese one. So this is in fairly good condition. The labels are a little bit eaten sort of around the edges and stuff like that. But otherwise it's in really nice condition. I do actually have this one boxed. So Japanese Game Boy Pockets, they came with, the Game Boy sits in the box like so, and then they had a little white card that went over the top that has holes cut out for the buttons. I'm missing that little piece of card, but I do have the manuals, the battery warnings and everything else. So it's not quite complete, but it's pretty damn good. And I bought this on eBay. I think I paid $70 or $80 for it at the time. This was a few years ago. So yeah, that's my only boxed Game Boy Pocket, and I think it's pretty cool. So then moving along, the next released Game Boy was the Game Boy Light. Now, it didn't actually release in Australian territory. I believe it only released in Japan. I could be wrong, but it definitely didn't release here in Australia. I'm really lucky I've actually got two. So the Game Boy Light is a similar sort of size to the Pocket, and similar shape and everything else, but the Game Boy Light has a backlight in it, so when you turn it on, I don't have any batteries at the moment, but when you turn it on, it has, instead of just clicking on and off, it actually has another further push on the button up here, and that will turn on the backlight. They also have a rounded battery cover, which is pretty cool, but it does mean that if you are missing a battery cover, it's sort of a bit more obvious and a lot harder to, you can't just use a Game Boy Pocket cover to replace it. This guy, I'm pretty sure I paid about $150 for it on Facebook, and it's in decent condition. It's in pretty good condition. Some of the lights got really beaten up, and there's not a lot of them about, so they are kind of expensive, but the stickers and everything, the serial numbers are in really good condition. So I have that one, but I also have this guy, which is really cool. So this is a Japanese Toys R Us Game Boy Light variant. I don't know exactly how many of these were released. I think it was somewhere between 5 and 10,000. I think the numbers are out there somewhere, if anybody would like to look it up. Again, it's a Toys R Us variant. It's pretty dang cool. It's like really nice and see-through. I paid a pretty penny for this, several $100s I think, maybe $200 or $300 for it. But I really wanted it. So, and it was part of a birthday present for me as well, from my partner. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so next up came the Game Boy Color. I have quite a few of these, and I'd like to get the 5-color variants if possible, but it's proving harder than I thought it would be. So first one I have is the purple. Can't remember the name for this, but I think it was indigo. And it's just a nice, just relatively nice condition. I actually got for free because it didn't work. I purchased a second-hand Wii U off a guy, and he said, "Are you interested in anything else?" And he goes, "I have this Game Boy, it doesn't work." I said, "Oh, I repair them, I buy it off you." And he goes, "No, you can have it for nothing." And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "No, at least let me give you $5." So I gave him $5, but it was pretty much free. But no, it didn't work. It had pretty bad corrosion, and a couple of other things as well. So I had to replace a speaker as well. But now it works completely fine. There's no problems with it, which was pretty cool. I was able to fix it within an hour or two of bringing it home. The next colour I have is, I believe it was called Dandelion, the yellow. This one's a bit dirty. I do find that yellows show dirt a bit. So up there, and then you can sort of see along there. And I don't really play this one, so I clean it, and it just sort of doesn't come clean very well. It's also lost its serial number. It's been wiped off the sticker, unfortunately. So, but yeah, it works just fine. Next, we've got sorry, it's a bit dusty. We've got a clear one. Again, I have no idea where I got this from. It's missing its serial number, but it's in pretty nice condition otherwise. There's no yellowing or anything like that. I also have this guy, which was a Japanese exclusive, and this is a variant as well, but I can't quite remember. It may have been another Toys R Us. I'm really not sure. I did know at one point. It needs a new serial number, but I don't know. I only like to replace them if I can tell what the old one was, so I can get an exact. But it needs a new label, that's for sure. But yeah, it's pretty dang cool. I like this one. It's a cool sort of colour. I bought this off a website called Japan for You. I used to buy a lot of faulty consoles off there because it was good value for money. But I stopped buying off there maybe a year ago for a few reasons, but mainly because it started getting too expensive. Everything you were paying, it wasn't any cheaper to buy it off there, and then you had to pay shipping as well. And then if you ever had any issues, you know, it wasn't easy to ship them back to Japan or prove it. So yeah, my next Game Boy, I have two here that are modded. So I have this guy, which I need to get new contacts for, but I accidentally forgot to order them when I bought it. I was sort of experimenting with colours. I'm happy with the button colours, but not the not the silicon, and I bought the white lens. This has an IPS screen. I'll just steal some batteries so you guys can see. I tend to have all my modded Game Boys have IPS screens in them. I prefer them over TFT. So, yeah. And they definitely got, I'll put a game in there. Oh, it helps me if the game is clean. 1 second. There we go. So I'll turn the sound down so there's no issues with copyright, but it's amazing the colours that these things produce. If you're wondering, this is a Japanese copy of Pokemon Crystal. So I know my camera doesn't focus very well, but it's pretty amazing, the colours. Suicune. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And it's even more amazing in person than it is sort of on film. So it's pretty dang cool, and you can sort of play it anywhere you want. So, and I just have this one running off batteries, but you can get USB-C rechargeable battery units for these. So yeah, and then my final Game Boy Color is another modded one. And the reason I decided to mod this is because I think I had another purple one with a bad shell in my little repair pile, and I decided to go for this one because it has a Sylveon UV printed shell. Now there was a modder that collaborated with the company that I got this. I got this from Z Labs. I can't remember the modder's name. If I can, I'll insert it down here somewhere. But yeah, this guy's pretty cool as well. So I also installed a retro glow, which I love. So I've got it set to purple because I feel like it goes with the buttons. So as you can see, they're like a clear atomic purple. But you can change the retro glow to be any colour of the rainbow. And I also installed a purple, the purple LED. So yeah, the retro glow was really cool and really easy to install. You just place it over the top and solder it in. So I have to get a label for the back, which I'm debating on because sometimes it looks good with the see-through game, but in reality, I've got the sun coming through the window, but that's a lot brighter in reality. So this is probably my favourite modded console that I've done so far. It's definitely sort of the coolest. So after the Game Boy Color came the Game Boy Advance, or the GBA. So I have 3 original GBA models. I have a standard Glacier model. Glacier's the colour. I did have to buy a battery pack for it. It's a decent match. It's not great. Could be better. But yeah, I've got this for $20 locally off Marketplace. A couple of years ago. Pulled it apart, gave it a really nice clean. There's no issues with it. It works. It's a bit of a scratched up screen. I did try to buy a glass screen cover to change it over, but none of them have got just the same. They just don't look the same, and I want it to look as authentic as possible. Obviously, if I was ever to sell it, I would be honest about the fact that it has a replacement cover, but yeah. And next up, I have a Spice Orange GBA. These guys were released in Japan. I don't know that they were released here. This is, if you watch my GameCube video, this is kind of why I bought a Spice Orange controller. It's cool. I mean, it's got a little bit of light scratching on the battery cover there, which you can't see in the sun. And then it's got a slight nick in there along the Nintendo logo, unfortunately. But it's still legible. There's no problems with it. So, yeah. And then I've got one of the first consoles I modded, which is, I guess you could call it the DBZ or Dragon Ball Z, or the Naruto GBA, but it's bright orange with yellow buttons. And orange is my favourite colour, and I sort of just thought yellow buttons would look cool. I've got, for some reason I bought red silicone. Not sure why I did that. I do also have a USB-C clean juice pack in there. This is one of the original clean juice packs where you had to bridge a couple of components together to get it to work properly, to get it to charge properly. And I did do a DIY job on the Dremel to expose the USB-C. It's not terrible, it's not great though either, but yeah, I didn't end up putting, some people get custom labels there, but I didn't want to because I just wanted to have a game in there that I could play, and it's flat. It's an issue with the earlier clean juices, is that they didn't hold power very well, but it's got an IPS screen. So then after the standard GBA came the GBA SP. So the first one I bought, I was obsessed with the Pikachu GBA, the Pokemon, I think it was Pokemon Center, I'm not sure, but it was yellow and it had Pikachu's face on it. But they're really hard to find, and if you do find them, then almost never in good condition. So I bought one that was like a reshelled IPS version, and then after about a year or so I didn't like the look of the Pikachu one anymore. It was too obviously a reproduction shell. So I went for this guy. So this is, I reshelled him and got new buttons as well, but this actually glows in the dark, which is pretty dang cool. I got a new battery for it and a new label. Yeah, and it glows in the dark as well, which is pretty dang cool. I also decided to install foam up here as opposed to just having the silver back on the screen. But you've got the circuit board exposed up there for the IPS screen, which I think is pretty cool. So, but yeah, if I get a game out, this should still have some charge in it. The GBA SP I really like. It's great. I do prefer the GBA just because I've got larger hands, but these guys were great. This was a 001 originally, so and of course the game is not clean. I know you're technically not supposed to blow in them, but it's always worked. So this is Mario Party Advance in there, but yeah, it's pretty unreal, the quality of them. When I do play my Game Boy games, there's always a modded one that I'm reaching for obvious reasons. I mean, as much as it is nice to be sort of a purist, I think just especially with the technology that we have today, it is just so much easier on the eyes for everything else. So yeah. And then I have one that I don't know if this was just exclusive to Australia, but I have a feeling it might be. This is the Rip Curl GBA SP. So it doesn't have too much design. It's got that on top, and then and then it's got that on the inside. So it's got red buttons. It's silver finish with a little Rip Curl there. The design on the front says the search it's closer than you think. So it's all about surfing and stuff. So I got this from a local Cash Converters. Sorry, it wasn't local. I was on holiday in Queensland. It was their local Cash Converters. I paid $60 for it, but it didn't work and I couldn't return it. So I took a risk on it, and when I got home it did actually need a new battery, unfortunately. So, but these are $60 was the going rate back then, whereas now they're much more expensive than that. But yeah, I replaced the battery in it, and I ended up buying this clear shell for it because it's already a little bit scratched, and this design scratches super duper easily, so I just wanted to sort of protect it. Yeah. And then you had the Game Boy Micro, which is also one of my, I suppose, one of my more special items in my collection. I've got two. I've got a blue one and a pink one. The Game Boy Micros, if you didn't know, they were just a tiny version of the Game Boy Advance, but they had really nice clear screens on them. that's a stock screen, by the way. So it is a really nice backlit screen. They are tiny when you're playing them. I mean, I have big-ish hands, but they're not huge. And you can see there that they're pretty small. They fit in the palm of your hand. But these came in a few colours. I know there's a really expensive Famicom edition one. But yeah, I really like them. I do have a couple of spare faceplates for them. I would like to get some more, but a lot of the reproduction faceplates that are on the market are really foggy for where the actual screen is, so it can be hard to actually see what you're playing. There is also one more thing that isn't really a Game Boy, but it sort of kind of is. It's kind of like I don't know, it's an offshoot, but it's a console called the Pokemon Mini. Now, a lot of people mightn't have heard of this, but I think it has been showcased on Reddit and a couple of other places, but it came in 3 colours. I'm lucky enough to actually have it complete in box, and an Australian version, which is pretty damn hard to get. So this is the Chikorita Green. There was a Smoochum Blue, which is, again, just a blue. No, wait, Smoochum Pink, sorry, and Wooper Blue. Of course, after the 3 Pokemon. These little guys were cool. So that's your little battery compartment, and they had physical cartridges, which is so cool, but they were tiny. And I think in total there was 10 or 12 games released, and I think 5 or 6 of those, roughly, were Japanese exclusives. And this game here is Pokemon Party Mini, which is the one that actually comes in the box with it. But I do also have Pokemon Pinball Mini, complete in box, and I have a funny feeling I might have one more game, but I can't quite remember. Now, these cartridges are actually locked in place. You have to switch this lock to be able to pull it out. It does have an IR sensor, which is so cool, given the size of it. They're tiny. I just think it's so cool. It's like a little bit bigger than a Tamagotchi, I suppose. Tamagotchi wouldn't include the buttons. It does have like a shoulder button, but they call it a C, and then you have A, B, and then you've got power there in the middle, which I believe mine's flat. But yeah, that's one of my little pride pieces. I really, really, really like it. It's pretty coveted, and it runs off a single AAA battery. But you do need to use sort of a coin or a screwdriver to get in there to be able to undo it. I say that as I just use my thumb to get it undone. But yeah, that is my Game Boy collection. I have a lot of DS consoles as well, probably just as many, but I just wanted to do them separately because I felt that the video was going to get massively long. So yeah, and something else I forgot to show, I do actually have a really nice box for the Spice Orange GBA, but I have no manuals, no inserts, no anything else. It's just the box and console, which I think is pretty cool. But as you can see, I don't really have any boxed or many boxed Game Boy consoles. I do have manuals and things like that for a few of them, because I do like having all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I want to know your guys' thoughts about, do you collect consoles? I mean, I have all these because I got some of them really cheap. Some of them I paid a bit up for, but I just wanted them, and I wanted all the different colours, and I just wanted them. And at the time, this obviously a couple of years ago, I had the disposable income to be able to do that, whereas that's not the case now. So I sort of I'm lucky that I'm in a place with my collection that I can look at it all and be content with what I have. So but yeah, leave a comment. If you're liking my videos so far, consider subscribing maybe. But yeah, have a lovely day, guys. Bye.